Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering into some very dangerous times. I have a report to bring you. Also, there's another story regarding the solar storms or magnetic storms, geomagnetic storms. We have another one incoming. Today, by the way, is November 1st in the year 2023. And so we're likely to see a strong solar cycle. And I've been talking for years about the links between the solar cycles and wars. And there's really a lot more research than I could do on the subject itself, as far as data gathering, using certain websites like the website that I linked to you in the past in past videos out of Russia that shows more up-to-date information on the geomagnetic storm on an hour-by-hour basis, right? So you want to monitor that, and using the data available at that website, one can also go back to certain dates where there was an increase in solar activity and geomagnetic storms and see what was taking place on the globe at that time. Okay, so let's look at this article first. Places to avoid if nuclear war breaks out between the US and Russia. And I read you a story about a week ago about the top cities that they recommend for a zombie apocalypse. And in so many ways, we've been conditioned to accept the zombie apocalypse. And when people think that they're living in a zombie apocalypse because they've been programmed through the violent movies and the violent media and the violent video games, a lot of people are going to think that they have a right or a duty to shoot zombies dead or to do whatever they want with a zombie. That means a female zombie, an ethnic zombie. And some people believe that the zombie apocalypse psychosis within our own society is really a cover for even racism itself. And there's lots of ways in which people can become zombies when there is nuclear fallout, when there is no food, or when there is another disaster that takes out the grid. This is the second recording because my computer decided on its own to stop recording and to stop working. This is a phenomenon that I've noticed this year with various software programs, from Audacity to the software program to the Windows camera. And so, discussing all the different technical difficulties that I've had with websites and even trying to get a podcast on Spotify, it would be quite lengthy to get into all of that. If I had the right volunteers, I would be spreading my podcasts on other platforms, but I really don't have the time. And to be honest with you, my content is not for everyone. But if you want to help out in some way, I really don't have anybody helping me out. And I do recommend that people do contribute to my work because I'm creating so much content now, and it's of a higher quality than the content in the past. In fact, that's my opinion. When I look at my past content, there's some videos that I plan to share, right? But I'm so stressed out in some of those videos when I was living with the bare basics, right? Eating, processed pork, eating eggs that are not refrigerated, living off grid. And ultimately, even though I miss living where I was in Southwest Colorado near Durango, because of the radicalization of the people in that region, even though it's a blue state, it's very, very red. It's ultimately not safe for ethnic minorities like myself, even if I've dedicated my whole life to exposing this coming war with Russia and China. Now, there's so many people in the alternative media that have been pro-Putin for years, saying that Putin is going to stand against the New World Order, and they have never repented of their lies. And maybe some of these people have been bought off by Russia themselves. I can just go down the list of individuals. But you would think that people would be intelligent enough to realize that they've been lied to. And you would think that people in this society would be intelligent enough to even be upset with and angry with people that have been promoting Russia for years, when in fact, Russia might be attacking the US, causing massive deaths. So literally, this is how damaged modern society is. So, how bad could things get if the two powers exchanged nuclear blows? And so, with the developments in Ukraine, things are set to get worse. And I did predict years ago that in the mid-2020s, we would see an escalation in geopolitical tensions. The two sides could cause a lot of damage. Russia could start a chain reaction that can lead to nuclear war. They have 6,000 warheads, and he may use a tactical nuke in Ukraine, where you don't want to be. In the event of a nuclear war that involved Russia and the US, it would certainly also involve America's NATO allies. a situation that would make several countries places that you wouldn't want to be once the missiles start flying. If Putin was fighting a nuclear war, then those living in the US could expect most of the country's major cities will be destroyed by Russia's first volley of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Expect these cities to be gone, okay? So these are what are believed to be the top targets in the United States, although you can look at a nuke map or a target map of the US and see many, many targets. And of course, they want you afraid of Muslims right now. And I told you in previous videos, if Muslims are really a threat in a genuine sense, not a false flag sense, we would have seen events when Trump was in power. But really, we have the switch programming to where they turn on the heat, they turn on the hate machine, and they work to inflame the Islamic world by burning holy books and engaging probably in algorithmic manipulation of those Arabic people, of those Islamic countries, because they're tapped into the same grid. They're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, they have smartphones. And so in the same way that whites can be radicalized and blacks can be radicalized and Latinos can be radicalized and even the Chinese people can be radicalized, they can deliberately work to radicalize Muslims as well that are dumb enough to fall for it. Cities like New York, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and DC would be among the first struck, according to a map created in 2015. How do we know where Russia would strike? They used open source data from FEMA and the National Resource Defense Council to plot likely Russian targets in the US. And as I told you, Russia has been targeting certain US cities with cyber attacks, shutting down the 9/11 system in some places, engaging in ransomware. This is not a good sign. But the people in these regions are completely clueless. And like I said, you have a lot of individuals that are pro-Russia in the alternative media that are acting like all of this stuff is okay. There's also a snapshot that I took from one of the World War III Facebook groups where somebody said, "Burn America, burn," that they can't wait to see America burn. That is what we are seeing from a lot of these profiles on Facebook. Also on the list, you'll find large clusters of targets in Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, and Wyoming. So when I talked to Leon years ago, he predicted that there would be a mass of veterans and soldiers and resistance fighters. You can even call them the American Mujahideen, to borrow a term from the Afghan war. And those fighters will likely be demonized also. See why they've been demonizing the Patriot movement intentionally? See why they have sabotaged the Patriot movement, a conspiracy movement with white supremacy, so people on the left and moderates in America turn away from these conspiracy truths, not conspiracy theories, but conspiracy truths. And so I've been calling out the Russian influence over the alternative media for many, many years, and I believe that it was a godsend that someone intervened and made sure that I did not go on the air on RT with Liz Wall in 2012. We're also coming out of a full moon, as you know, a partial solar eclipse, and we're coming out of the period of the October solar eclipse. Okay, and so with the recent full moon, we're still feeling the eclipse that we just came out of. There are 90 nuclear plants across the U.S. in places like Alabama, Arizona, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. I interviewed Matthew Stein, by the way, about his article, 400 Chernobyls. So if you haven't seen my interview with him, you can find that on YouTube. Okay, so a lot of these power plants aren't ready for a monster solar flare, a nuclear attack, cyber attack, or an EMP attack. Okay, so the power plants would go into meltdown because there's not a law in place to make sure that there's enough fuel to keep these plants from going into meltdown and creating basically a number of Chernobyl-like events. The US has about 5,400 warheads. A lot of people say this will never happen because it's mutual assured destruction, but what if the agenda is a depopulation endgame? The United Kingdom would also see Russia's wrath. Russia bombs wouldn't likely also end up targeting the UK in any nuclear war scenario, and it's not hard to see how that could unfold in today's geopolitical climate. Seeing as how London has been one of the biggest supporters of Ukraine since Moscow launched its 2022 invasion. So I said in 2019, even before that, as far back as 2013, in the PowerPoint presentation that I put together in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the Free Your Mind Conference, that we would see an escalation in tensions and a potential kickoff of World War III during the peak of the solar cycle. The Russian scientist by the name of Alexander Chizhevsky, which I talked about on the Coast to Coast radio interview on June 25th, 2019 with George Noring. I mentioned him and Burl Payne, who passed in recent years, who talked about cycles of war and peace connected to the sun. And he said, we usually see these wars kick off right before the peak or right after the peak. Putin has threatened to nuke the UK at least 35 times in 2022. Most major cities would be wiped out. Which would be targeted? Targets at the time were said to include central London, Manchester, Liverpool, a lot of places here in the UK. It's a long list. Other infrastructure, as we know, would be hit. 23 RAF bases, 14 USAF bases, 10 radar stations, 8 military command centers, and 13 Royal Navy bases. Retaliating in force. Russia wouldn't escape the destruction of a possible nuclear war either, even if Putin was the first to act. And to be honest with you, I don't believe that these world leaders are even human. Biden warned Putin in October 2002 that he would face Armageddon if he even tried to use one tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine. NATO allied countries would also be dangerous locations. While the world has no concrete data on which NATO countries would be bombed in the event of nuclear war with Russia, it's been said that NATO countries would be destroyed in a half hour. Everywhere is dangerous. A small conflict could devastate the entire Earth. 5 billion could die. Nowhere is safe, and that's what we have for that report. Moving ahead now, and follow the links down below. Also take a look at my longer Substack article and video suggestions that I published several days ago. And I encourage you to support my work on a monthly basis on PayPal so I can become financially self-sufficient and pull myself out of poverty. Share the links with people with the eyes to see and ears to hear, not with people that are already brainwashed. And understand that I am being toyed with technologically, and I'm heavily shadow banned. So I can put through certain posts on Facebook, hey guys, am I shadow banned? And people will come right away and say, no, you're not. But if I post videos of mine from this YouTube channel, if I post links to my Substack, if I post thumbnail photos that are normally seen in my YouTube videos, nobody engages with the content. So 2-day magnetic storm. When will it become risky? A strong magnetic storm on the red level will hit Earth today, November 1st. It will persist and storm into tomorrow. This storm will reach a high K index of 6, which is pretty high. This means that people on the planet may experience headaches and deteriorating well-being. And I was treated for years like an idiot for talking about how we're affected by the solar flares, and now it's being admitted in the mainstream. But if you try to look up my stuff on the solar flares, unless you know exactly where to go, you won't find it. So you can read more about this. We also had geomagnetic storms for over a day and a half recently. And several months ago, we had geomagnetic storms for 2 to 3 days straight. And again, there were shootings in the news. There was violence in the news. The previous few days were not calm, although scientists predicted that the storm would subside on November 1st. The magnetosphere will only return to a calm state on November 3rd. How does a magnetic storm affect people? There are many studies that confirm the correlation between magnetic storms and a decline in human being. Common complaints include headaches, migraines, insomnia, excessive daytime sleepiness, general weakness, and a decline in well-being. Rapid fatigue, decreased concentration and productivity, increased anxiety, depression, irritability, and aggression. The greatest danger posed by such storms to astronauts outside the protective shield of the Earth's atmosphere is to astronauts. They can be exposed to high levels of radiation, significantly increasing the risk of developing cancer. How to ease your condition: get enough rest and sleep, reduce physical and emotional stress, breathe fresh air and drink enough water, maintain a balanced diet, and avoid alcohol, salty, and unhealthy food. Okay, so certain meditations are very, very important. U.S. military launches airstrikes on terror targets. These links will be down below. Facilities in Syria used by Iran's military have been struck. Its terrorist proxy group. The strikes were in response to ongoing attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria. Trending, chilling video of Muslim mob yelling Allah Akbar in hunt for Jews. But if you're of Middle Eastern heritage and you're Christian, you will still be shadow banned, even if you believe in Jesus, and you will still be hated by some people. So anti-Themism is real, folks, and they're using radical Islam to create hatred and maybe genocide over the course of the next 80 to 100 years as we approach 2165. And that's a number that came to me years ago as some sort of major point in time. Full Spectrum Survival, the YouTube channel, is talking about stay inside and be armed, promoting fear of Hamas. And Kevin Barrett, the white Muslim, is saying that people should support Hamas, which in fact immigrants and ethnic minorities should not be doing. So interesting enough, he gets a pass and gets away with saying something like that. A mob that stormed a Russian airport hunting for Jews got its marching orders from Telegram. Then the channel lost control. Okay, so here we have another report about social media manipulation, in this case, Telegram. I've told you in the past about China manipulating the algorithm on Facebook with Facebook's help to rally up and stir up the Chicago riots in 2020, if you remember that, right? And so conspiracy theorists are out to lunch out of their mind for not being aware of how they're being led by algorithms. And I've been trying to get this message out for years. AI knows everything that I have to say, that I have been saying for years. It has my whole history of Facebook posts from the past. So while humanity doesn't see my best work, AI knows everything that I've been saying. And AI is ultimately being manipulated by an entity. So this is why, right, it's good to get away from technology, to flip off the internet, to get away from our smartphone, because there are unclean, evil spirits, not only on these websites and platforms, but on these physical devices. You should be getting prepared. If you have a means of getting a 55-gallon drum, freeze-dried food, you want to get a variety of food. I made a video recently on conscious prepping. Without getting into a long list of things, you need to know what you need in your environment. Okay, and so things are looking like they are getting very dangerous. And so this is the time to pray for our loved ones, even if we don't get along with our family. And they may not like us. I don't feel loved by my birth family. I feel hated by them, in fact. And I know that if I wasn't hated by my mother and father, in truth, they would give me thumbs up for the years and years in which I've accurately called things out. And if they were intelligent, they would realize that these things are coming. And that people like Alex Jones, who my mother has listened to for years, but she didn't listen to Alex Jones when I was listening to Alex Jones, and he talked about 9/11, and he was against the wars, and he was against indefinite torture, and he was against these bad things that were done to those people. Alex Jones changed. And isn't it interesting how when Alex Jones changed, all of a sudden these New Agers on the dark side that now covet far-right ideology, not left-leaning ideology, but far-right ideology, they don't see anything wrong with Alex Jones demonizing all Arabs and immigrants. So they're going to be using likely staged events blamed on these groups to kick things off and create unrest in the country as these other major events come into manifestation. Okay, I'm bringing something out for you at this time. Like I said, we should be meditating during periods in which we have these geomagnetic storms. We should be praying. Psalm 91 is a protection scripture used by Christians throughout the ages during times of danger and crisis, and is the perfect morning prayer that is relevant in our modern times. If you read Psalm 91, you will see that it isn't just a powerful prayer, but it's a promise that God's care will be bestowed upon you. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because He loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. How do you ask for God's protection? Prepare your mind and body, be sincere, find a quiet place, focus on the quality of your prayers, concentrate your thoughts. And I'll leave a link down below. I mentioned before that frankincense and myrrh are discussed in the Bible, whereas sage, from what I understand, is not. And so there may be certain forms of incense, right, that are more effective than others. And so the links will be down below. If you would like to financially contribute to my work on PayPal, it would be fantastic for 15 to 20 people over time to start donating a suggested donation of $25 to $50 per month, only if you are in a financial opportunity to do so, right? There's been a big drop in support from the audience since I left the internet in 2019, but I had to do so for my own safety and my own sanity. Seeing a rise in demonic possessions in the viewers, a rise in reports of people hearing voices in the head and acting on those voices in the head. And of course, with COVID-19 situation, there was a lot of disinformation on the internet, and there was also a lot of censorship on the internet. And so it was very important for me to step back. And so now that I'm back using a new channel because something seriously feels wrong and corrupted with my old channel, I can look at my 2 recent uploads. They have very few views, about 100 views, where my normal videos, if you notice, the last 4 uploads, 350 views, 360 views, then it drops down to 120, then it drops down to 117. Folks, that's not normal. So I will pray for you that you will see the true light of this world and come to the true Christ of this world, not the New Age law of attraction Christ, and that I ask for your prayers as well. I pray that if we are to be taken out of this world in a nuclear holocaust, that it be swift and instant, and that we be taken out of the lower realms and into the higher realms, or the pleroma, or heaven, rather than to live a painful, slow death, experiencing starvation, in some cases, cannibalization. I'm Alex Ansary signing off.